We're celebrating Thanksgiving at my dad's, and you'll be alone as usual, my brother-in-law said at my doorstep. I just smiled and booked a plane ticket. But when I posted a photo from Thanksgiving, my phone blew up with calls. Who was that woman sitting next to me? And why did it destroy their perfect facade? Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The house looked better than when I'd lived in it. That thought crossed my mind as I pulled into the driveway, a store-bought pecan pie balanced on the passenger seat. November had turned Nashville cold and gray, the kind of afternoon that made you want to be inside with family, planning holidays, laughing over nothing. 1 week before Thanksgiving, and I was still trying to figure out where I fit into my daughter's life. I didn't knock. 30 years I'd paid the mortgage on this place. Walked through that door after long days selling properties, fixing broken pipes at 2 in the morning. The key still worked, though I wondered sometimes if Logan had thought about changing the locks. They were in the living room when I entered. New hardwood floors caught the light from the massive television mounted on the wall. Had to be 80 inches at least. Aaron sat on a leather sofa I didn't recognize, cream-colored, expensive-looking. Logan sprawled beside her, thumbs moving across his phone screen like he was performing surgery. "Hey, Dad." Aaron's smile was quick, practiced. "We didn't know you were coming by." I held up the pie. "Thought we could talk about Thanksgiving. What should I bring? What time works for you?" Logan's eyes never left his phone. Aaron glanced at him, waited. The silence stretched out like taffy, sticky and uncomfortable. I noticed the marble countertop visible through the kitchen doorway. Marble. The counters had been laminate when I moved out 3 years ago. "Actually," Logan said, still staring at his screen, "we're doing Thanksgiving at my dad's place in Atlanta this year. He's getting older, you know how it is." I set the pie on the new glass coffee table. "Your father's place? I didn't know he lived in Atlanta." "Yeah, moved there a few years back." Logan finally looked up, his expression hovering between boredom and mild irritation. "Big house, plenty of room. Should be good." "Dad, we just thought," Aaron started. "He'll be fine, hun." Logan cut her off with the casual confidence of someone who'd never questioned his right to make decisions. "He's used to it, right, Lemuel?" The way he said my name, not Mr. Boyd, not even a respectful pause before it. Just Lemuel, like I was his poker buddy or someone he'd known in college. I felt my hand curl into a fist inside my jacket pocket, knuckles pressing against the fabric. "You'll be fine on your own, right?" Logan added. "Like always." Like always. The words landed soft, but cut deep. I looked at Erin, my daughter. The girl I'd raised alone after her mother left when she was 7. She was examining her fingernails, wouldn't meet my eyes. I walked slowly through the living room, letting my fingers trail across the back of that cream leather sofa. $12,000, maybe more. The hardwood floors ran throughout the house, white oak, professionally installed. I moved into the kitchen, touched the marble countertop, cold and smooth under my palm. Receipts were scattered near the coffee maker. I could see them clearly. Fleming's Steakhouse, 287s. Nordstrom, 643ers. The Container Store, 412s. The trust fund I'd established sent them $2,800 every month for house maintenance and property taxes. I did the math automatically. Real estate had been my business for 40 years. Numbers came as naturally as breathing. This renovation alone had cost 40, maybe 50,000. The furniture, the television, all of it added up to more than the trust fund could cover in years. "The house looks different," I said, keeping my voice level. "New floors?" "Yeah, place needed updating." Logan had followed me into the kitchen, his confidence filling the space. "Can't let it fall apart, right? Aaron deserves nice things." I turned to face him. He was taller than me now. I'd shrunk an inch or two over the years, and he knew it, used it. Stood just a little too close, making me tilt my head back slightly to maintain eye contact. "Where did the family photos go?" I gestured toward the fireplace mantel in the adjoining den. Generic abstract art hung there now, all blacks and grays, the kind of pieces that looked expensive but said nothing. "Those old things?" Logan shrugged. "We modernized. Clean lines, you know. Contemporary aesthetic." The photos had included Aaron's mother, back when she'd still been around. Aaron at her high school graduation. Aaron and me at her college commencement. 30 years of history replaced by clean lines. I walked through the den, the dining room, even glanced down the hallway toward the bedrooms. Everything had changed. The walls were a fashionable gray now. Grayish, they probably called it in the design magazines. Track lighting, built-in shelving where my old bookcase had stood. Dad, it's complicated this year. Erin finally spoke as I returned to the living room. She still wouldn't look at me directly. Logan's father really wants to see us, and with the flight costs, I understand. I did understand. I understood perfectly. I picked up the pie from the coffee table, smiled at them both. The smile felt strange on my face, like a mask that didn't fit quite right. Enjoy Atlanta. Give my regards to your father, Logan. Will do. Logan had already returned his attention to his phone. See you around Christmas, maybe. Maybe. I let that word hang in the air as I walked to the door. Neither of them stood up. Neither of them walked me out. I heard Logan laugh as I pulled the door closed behind me, heard him say something to Erin that I couldn't quite make out, followed by her soft laugh in response. The November air bit at my face as I walked to my car. I sat behind the wheel for a long time, not starting the engine. Through the living room window, I could see them clearly. Logan had stretched out on that expensive sofa. Erin curled against him. The light inside was warm, golden, inviting. Everything I'd built, everything I'd paid for, and I was outside in the cold, looking in like a stranger. I turned the key. The engine rumbled to life. As I pulled away from the curb, I glanced in the rearview mirror one last time. The house was beautiful, lit up against the gray evening. It didn't look like mine anymore, but legally, technically, according to every document filed with the county, it still was. That thought stayed with me as I drove across town toward my apartment. My apartment felt smaller every time I came home. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen barely large enough to turn around in. The furniture was practical, nothing like the designer pieces filling my former house. I'd been here 3 years now, and it still felt temporary, like I was waiting for permission to actually live somewhere. I dropped my keys on the kitchen counter and sat down at the small table. The pie sat in front of me, still in its plastic container. I opened my laptop and pulled out the folder I kept in the hall closet. Financial documents, bank statements, property records, things I'd been avoiding looking at too closely. The trust fund statements told their story in neat rows of numbers. $2,800 transferred automatically on the first of every month. 3 years. I calculated quickly. Over $100,000. That didn't include the property taxes I paid directly, or the homeowner's insurance, or the value of letting them live rent-free in a house worth $485,000. Probably more now with those renovations. I pulled up the property records on my laptop, navigating to the county assessor's website, typed in the address, waited for the page to load. Owner of record, Lemuel James Boyd. I stared at that line. I'd forgotten. How had I forgotten something that fundamental? When I'd moved out, when I'd been pushed out, really, when Logan had made it clear there wasn't room for both of us under that roof, I'd set up the trust fund, arranged for them to live there, talked to my lawyer about estate planning. But I'd never actually transferred the deed. The house was still legally mine. 3 years, I said aloud to the empty apartment, over $100,000, and I'm the one who'll be alone on Thanksgiving. I shoved the statements aside and started going through older files, stuff I hadn't looked at in decades. Business cards rubber banded together from the 90s, contracts from property deals that had made my reputation, photos from real estate conferences where I'd been the only black face in a sea of white developers, back when that still surprised people. A faded business card slipped out from between 2 manila folders. I picked it up, squinting at the worn letters. Shannon Morales, property management consultant. Below that, a phone number with an area code I didn't recognize anymore. Shannon, I smiled despite everything. We'd worked together on maybe a dozen deals in the mid-90s, back when I was building my business, and she was sharp and funny, and understood leverage better than most men twice her age. She'd moved to California for a bigger opportunity, and we'd lost touch the way people do. Morales. The surname didn't register. It was common enough. My mind was still on Logan, on Erin's averted eyes, on spending Thanksgiving alone in this cramped apartment. I opened my laptop again and searched for her name. Shannon Morales, San Diego. Found her company immediately. She'd done well for herself. Very well. Commercial property management, residential developments, a professional photo showing she'd aged as gracefully as anyone could hope to. My finger hovered over my phone. This was ridiculous, calling someone I hadn't spoken to in 30 years because I felt sorry for myself, because I was tired of being invisible. I dialed before I could talk myself out of it. 3 rings, 4. Maybe she'd changed her number. Maybe this was... Hello? Her voice was older, but unmistakable. Still carried that warmth, that hint of humor, even in a simple greeting. Shannon, this is Lemuel Boyd. I don't know if you remember... Lemuel Boyd? I can't believe it. How many years has it been? Too many. I leaned back in my chair, feeling something loosen in my chest. I found your card in some old files. Thought I'd see if the number still worked. Well, it does. Though I have to say, this is the nicest surprise I've had all month. I heard her moving, a door closing. So catch me up. 30 years and 30 seconds. Go. We talked for an hour. She'd married twice, divorced twice, built a successful company managing commercial properties across Southern California. I told her about my work, about Aaron, carefully editing the parts that hurt too much to share with someone who remembered me when I'd been stronger. So, what are you doing for Thanksgiving? She asked. Big family plans? I let out a laugh that sounded bitter even to my own ears. Actually, I'm free. My family has other arrangements. Silence on her end, the kind that acknowledged the pain beneath the casual words. Come to San Diego, she said finally. I'm serious. I'll be alone too. We can complain about ungrateful children together. You'll be alone? My son doesn't speak to me. Her voice went flat. Long story, mostly my fault for missing too many Little League games while I was building the business. He's got his own life now, and apparently, I'm not part of it. I thought about Aaron laughing on that cream leather sofa, about Logan's dismissive tone, about spending Thanksgiving heating up a frozen dinner in my kitchenette. You know what? I said. I think I will. Really? Don't joke about it, then not show up. I'm booking the flight right now. I opened a new browser window, pulled up airline websites. You might regret this invitation. I doubt it. She laughed, and it was genuine, free of the careful politeness that had colored every interaction I'd had with Aaron in the past year. It'll be good to see you, Lemuel. Really good. We talked for another 20 minutes while I searched flights. There was one leaving Thanksgiving morning, arriving in San Diego early afternoon. Not cheap, but I had the money. I'd been saving it for a grandchild's college fund, back when I'd still believed I might be included in those kinds of future plans. I'll pick you up at the airport, Shannon said. Text me your flight details. After we hung up, I sat staring at the confirmation email glowing on my laptop screen. Flight 2847, Nashville to San Diego, departing Thursday. November 28th at 6:15 a.m. I'd have to leave for the airport around 4 in the morning, but that was fine. I wouldn't be sleeping much anyway. I closed the laptop and looked around my apartment. The beige walls, the rental-grade carpet, the furniture I'd bought at discount stores because nothing here was permanent. For 3 years, I'd been waiting for Aaron to invite me over more often, waiting for Logan to show me basic respect, waiting to feel like I mattered to someone. For the first time in longer than I could remember, I'd made a decision purely for myself, not for family obligation, not to avoid conflict. Just because I wanted to see an old friend, because I was tired of being alone, because the alternative was one more holiday spent pretending I was fine with being forgotten. I didn't know that this simple choice, visiting Shannon Morales for Thanksgiving, would change everything. I didn't know that her son and my son-in-law were the same person. I didn't know that the answers I'd been seeking were waiting in San Diego. All I knew was that I was done being invisible. The California sun hit differently than Tennessee's gray November mornings. I stood outside San Diego International Airport with my carry-on bag, squinting against the brightness that felt almost artificial after weeks of overcast skies back home. The air smelled of ocean salt and something I couldn't quite name. Possibility, maybe, or just unfamiliarity. Shannon's silver Lexus pulled to the curb at exactly noon. I recognized her through the windshield, though she'd changed more than I'd expected. The woman who climbed out wore confidence like expensive perfume, understated but unmistakable. Her hair was shorter, stylish in a way that required maintenance. She smiled, and for a moment I saw the sharp consultant I'd worked with 30 years ago. You haven't changed a bit, she lied graciously, pulling me into a quick hug. Neither have you, I lied back. Her condo overlooked the Pacific from the 15th floor, all floor-to-ceiling windows and clean lines. modern art on the walls, the kind that probably cost more than my car. She'd done well for herself, better than well. "I hope you're hungry," she said, leading me into a kitchen larger than my entire apartment. I got us a small turkey breast, nothing fancy, just the basics. Figured we'd keep it simple. We fell into an easy rhythm preparing dinner together. She handled the turkey while I worked on mashed potatoes and green beans. The conversation flowed like no time had passed. Real estate horror stories, the crash of 2008, clients who'd become friends and friends who'd become cautionary tales. She laughed more than I remembered, or maybe I'd forgotten what genuine laughter sounded like. "You never told me," she said, pulling plates from a cabinet. "Do you have children?" "One daughter, Erin. She's 36, married." "That's wonderful." Shannon arranged silverware on the dining table with practiced precision. "Are you close?" The question landed harder than she'd intended. "We used to be." She caught something in my tone, didn't push. We carried food to the table, settled across from each other, with the Pacific stretching endless and blue beyond the windows. The turkey was perfect. Everything was perfect. And I felt the weight of the week pressing down on me. The rejection, the expensive renovations, my daughter's averted eyes. "Can I ask what happened?" I ventured. "With your son. You mentioned he doesn't speak to you." Shannon's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She set it down carefully, took a breath. "Divorce is brutal on children, even adult children." Her voice went quiet, measured. "My ex-husband was controlling, made me choose between my career and family. When I chose the business, when I chose myself, my son Logan sided with his father. My own fork scraped against the plate. Logan. The name hung in the air like smoke. I forced myself to keep chewing, to swallow, to reach for my water glass with a steady hand. "How old is he now?" I asked, casual, just making conversation. 38, real estate agent last I heard. She pushed food around her plate. "He told me I destroyed our family. The last time I saw him, must be 15 years now. He said he wished I'd never been his mother." The water glass felt slippery in my palm. 38. Real estate. Logan. Morales was a common surname. Nashville was a city of nearly 700,000 people. There had to be more than one Logan Morales working in real estate. "That's in Nashville?" The question came out too quickly. "Yes, he moved there for work." Shannon's eyes were distant, seeing something I couldn't. "I tried to visit once, after he'd been there a few years. He refused to see me, said I was dead to him, so I should stay that way." A tear tracked down her cheek. She brushed it away impatiently. Eventually, I stopped trying. What's the point of forcing yourself on someone who doesn't want you? I knew that feeling intimately. "I'm sorry." We finished dinner in near silence, the earlier warmth replaced by the ghosts of absent children. Shannon cleared the plates, waved off my offers to help. She returned with coffee and an old photo album, its leather cover cracked with age. "I don't usually do this," she said, settling beside me on the sofa. "But since we're being honest about our failures as parents..." She flipped through pages of memories. A much younger Shannon with a little boy, birthday parties, Christmas mornings, little league games she'd probably missed more often than not. Then she turned to a page near the back. This was taken about 10 years ago in Nashville. He'd just gotten his real estate license. The photograph showed a man in his late 20s, standing in front of a brick building with a professional smile that didn't reach his eyes, the angle of his jaw, that particular tilt of his head, equal parts arrogance and insecurity, the way he stood with his weight on his left leg, right hand in his pocket. Logan Morales, my son-in-law, the man who dismissed me in my own house a week ago. "Handsome, isn't he?" Shannon's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Nashville," I managed. "That's where I live. Small world." "He works in residential real estate there. I looked him up online once. Has his own profile on one of those realtor sites. Seems successful, from what I could see." She closed the album. "I know I sound bitter, but when your child tells you they wish you were dead, that stays with you, you know?" "I can't imagine," I said quietly. But I could imagine. I was living it. Shannon mistook my silence for sympathy. She squeezed my hand. "Look at us. Two lonely people on Thanksgiving, crying over children who don't want us. We're pathetic." "We're here," I corrected. "That's something." I excused myself to the bathroom, told her I needed a moment, locked the door, and gripped the edge of the sink until my knuckles went white, stared at my reflection, a 63-year-old man who just discovered his son-in-law had erased his own mother from existence, told everyone she was dead, built an entire life, married my daughter, lived in my house, spent my money, all while his mother sat alone 3 states away, believing he wanted nothing to do with her. The audacity of it, the sheer breathtaking cruelty. I splashed water on my face, dried it with a monogrammed towel, and returned to the living room with what I hoped passed for composure. "I think I need some air," I said. "Want to walk with me?" We stepped onto her balcony. The Pacific stretched before us, dark and endless in the fading light. Shannon asked if I wanted coffee. Her voice drifted from somewhere behind me, warm and concerned. I pulled out my phone, stared at the blank screen, then looked back at the ocean, at the impossible distance between this moment and every assumption I'd made about my life. My mind raced through possibilities, connections, the machinery of Logan's deception clicking into place piece by piece. Inside, Shannon moved through her kitchen, humming something I couldn't quite identify. Outside, the ocean kept its own counsel, patient and indifferent. I stood between both worlds, phone in hand, and felt something shift inside my chest. Not anger yet, something colder, more deliberate. The sun was setting over the Pacific, painting the water in shades of orange and purple that seemed almost aggressively beautiful. I'd been standing on Shannon's balcony too long. She called from inside, asking if I was all right, her voice carrying that particular note of concern that meant she was starting to worry. I took a breath and walked back in. "I'm fine, just taking in the view. We don't have oceans in Tennessee." "You seemed far away for a minute there." She handed me a fresh cup of coffee. "Long day, long week, really." I settled onto her sofa, the leather warm from earlier. "The view helps, clears the head." "We should walk," Shannon suggested. "The waterfront is beautiful at sunset. You're leaving tomorrow. You should see more than just my living room." We drove to the Embarcadero, parked, and joined the evening crowd of joggers and tourists and people with nowhere else to be on Thanksgiving. The air had cooled but stayed comfortable. Shannon linked her arm through mine companionably, the way old friends do when they've rediscovered each other. "This was a good idea," she said. "Having you here. I didn't realize how much I needed company until I had it." We stopped at a scenic overlook where the harbor met the open ocean. Sailboats dotted the water, their white sails catching the dying light. Shannon leaned against the railing, looking younger than she had all day. "We should document this," I said, pulling out my phone. "Unexpected reunion. When's the last time we took a picture together?" 1995, probably, that conference in Phoenix." She laughed, moved closer. "We looked so young then, so serious about everything." I framed the shot carefully, both our faces clearly visible, the harbor recognizable in the background. Shannon's genuine smile, my arm around her shoulders. I took 3 photos, checked them. "Perfect. Send me those," she said. "I never post anything, but maybe I should start." "I'll do you one better." We walked back toward the car as I opened Facebook on my phone. I rarely posted. My account was mostly dormant, a digital artifact from when social media was still new, and everyone thought it mattered. But Aaron followed me, so did Logan. I selected the best photo and typed carefully, "Unexpected reunion with an old friend. Thanksgiving is about being grateful for genuine people in your life." My thumb hovered over the post button for just a heartbeat. Then I pressed it. "That's sweet," Shannon said, glancing at my screen. "You're more sentimental than I remember." Age does that to people. I slid the phone into my pocket and opened her car door. "Makes you appreciate what you have." Back at her condo, Shannon made more coffee while I sat on the sofa, phone face down on the coffee table. The screen lit up once, twice, then didn't stop. The vibrations became a steady rhythm against the glass surface. "Someone's eager to reach you." Shannon emerged from the kitchen with 2 mugs. "Family checking in?" "Just holiday messages, nothing that can't wait." The phone buzzed again, and again. I could see the notifications lighting up the edges of the screen. Incoming calls, text messages, the little icons stacking up like digital panic. I left it face down. Shannon settled beside me, noticed my distraction. "Is everything all right? You can take calls if you need to." "I'm fine." I picked up the coffee, let the warmth seep into my palms. "Just tired. The flight, The time difference. I'm not as young as I used to be. My phone rang. The screen showed Aaron's name. I declined the call. 30 seconds later, it rang again. Logan this time. Declined. Text messages flooded in. I could see the previews. Dad, who is that? Is that Logan's mother? Delete that post now. Shannon frowned at the repeated buzzing. Are you sure everything's okay? Completely sure. I smiled at her, genuine this time. Someone probably just saw my post and got nostalgic. You know how holidays make people emotional. More texts arrived in rapid succession. How do you know her? Call me back right now. This isn't funny. We need to talk. I silenced the phone completely. The screen still lit up with each new message, but the sound stopped. Shannon relaxed slightly, attributing my distraction to travel fatigue. Stay another night, she suggested. Fly back Saturday. You just got here, and I'm enjoying the company. I appreciate that, but I have things to handle back home. I stood, set down my empty mug. I should probably head to my hotel. Let you have your evening. This was exactly what I needed, though. Promise you'll keep in touch? Actually, keep in touch this time. Not another 30-year gap? I promise. And I meant it. Shannon deserved better than what her son had given her. Better than being erased, declared dead, forgotten. We hugged goodbye at her door. She held on a moment longer than expected, and I realized how lonely she'd been, how much this single day had meant to her. I drove to my hotel in a rental car, checked in, rode the elevator to the 4th floor. The room was generic, beige walls, floral bedspread, a landscape painting of some canyon that probably didn't exist. I sat on the edge of the bed and finally looked at my phone. 43 missed calls, 27 text messages. I scrolled through them slowly, watching the progression. Confusion first. Dad, is that Shannon Morales? Then recognition. Why are you with Logan's mother? Then panic. You need to delete that post. Then fury. This is not okay. Logan's messages were more direct. What are you doing? Call me immediately. This is a private family matter. And finally, this is a private family matter. We need to talk now. I set the phone on the nightstand and lay back on the bed, hands folded behind my head. The ceiling had those textured swirls that all hotel ceilings seem to have, patterns that meant nothing and went nowhere. Logan thought his mother was dead to him. Aaron believed her mother-in-law didn't exist. They'd built their life on careful omissions and outright lies, spending my money in my house while pretending I barely mattered. And now they were terrified. I allowed myself a small smile. I didn't have a full plan yet, didn't know exactly where this was going or how it would end. But I'd just taken my first piece off the board, made my opening move in a game Logan didn't even know we were playing. My phone lit up again. Another call from Aaron. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail, then picked up the device and turned it off completely. Tomorrow I'd fly home. Tomorrow I'd face whatever came next. Tonight, I'd sleep better than I had in 3 years. The flight back to Nashville had landed past midnight. I'd unpacked my carry-on in darkness, hung my few shirts in the closet, set my phone on the kitchen counter without looking at it. Sleep came in fragments, broken by the hum of my refrigerator, and thoughts I couldn't quite organize into coherence. December's gray light filtered through my apartment windows by 7. I made coffee slowly, the ritual comforting in its predictability. The phone sat where I'd left it, screen dark but somehow radiating accusation. 67 missed calls, 89 text messages. The numbers glowed red when I finally picked it up. I scrolled through them with my coffee cooling in my other hand. The progression told its own story. Early messages from Aaron. Dad, is that really Logan's mom? Then, please call me back. By midnight they'd turned desperate. I don't understand what's happening. Logan's were different, sharp, demanding. Delete that photo immediately. This is private family business. You're interfering in things you don't understand. His final message had arrived at 2 a.m. We need to talk, face to face. I set the phone down and drank my coffee. Let them wait. They'd made me wait 3 years to matter in their lives. They could wait a few hours for answers. Around noon, my phone rang again. Aaron's name appeared on the screen. I let it ring 3 times while I decided whether I was ready for this conversation. On the 4th ring, I answered, Dad. Her voice was wrecked, raw from crying. Please tell me you didn't know. Tell me this is some horrible coincidence. Why would I know your husband lied about his mother being dead? Silence stretched between us. I could hear her breathing, uneven and shallow. How do you know her? She asked finally. Shannon Morales. We worked together 30 years ago. Real estate consulting. We lost touch. And you just randomly reconnected? I called an old colleague on Thanksgiving, that's all. I kept my voice flat, factual. I didn't know she was Logan's mother until she mentioned her son. Logan, the real estate agent in Nashville. He told me she died, Aaron's voice cracked, in a car accident when he was 20. I've watched him skip Mother's Day every year. He'd get quiet and distant, and I thought he was grieving. Interesting, I said. How the dead come back to life on social media. She made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. What else has he lied about? That's all I can think about now. What else? I didn't answer. Let her sit with that question. Let it work on her the way Logan's dismissiveness had worked on me. We should discuss this in person, I said. Both of you, my place tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock. He won't want to come. Then don't tell him it's a discussion. Tell him I have questions and he'd better answer them before I decide what else to share with Shannon. Aaron agreed quickly, too desperate for answers to push back. After we hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and thought about what tomorrow would look like. Logan, cornered, would try to control the situation through aggression. Aaron would cry. They'd both want explanations I wasn't obligated to provide. I pulled out my filing cabinet and found the folder I'd labeled Shannon Morales, 1995-1999. Old photos from the Phoenix conference where we'd first worked together. Business cards, contracts with her signature, evidence of our legitimate decades-old connection. I wasn't showing all my cards tomorrow, but Logan needed to understand he couldn't intimidate me. The next evening, I set the folder on my coffee table and waited. They arrived at 6:03, close enough to punctual to show they had debated being late. Logan's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Aaron's eyes were red-rimmed, makeup unable to hide the crying. Logan went on offense immediately. What game are you playing? How did you find her? I stayed seated, hands folded in my lap. I didn't find her. I called an old colleague, that's all. You expect me to believe that? He stepped closer, using his height. Out of everyone you could call, you just happened to call my mother? I slid the folder across the table. Didn't open it, just let it sit there between us. I've known Shannon Morales since 1995. We worked together on several major deals. We lost touch when she moved to California. I opened the folder then, revealing the conference photo. Me and Shannon, both younger, standing with a group of other real estate professionals. I didn't know she was your mother, not until she showed me your photo and mentioned her son Logan worked in Nashville real estate. The aggression in his stance faltered. He picked up the photo, studied it, had to acknowledge its authenticity. You need to stay out of this, he said, but his voice had lost its edge. What's between her and me? That's not your business. You made it my business when you lied to my daughter for 8 years. I stood then, matched his height as much as my 63 years would allow. When you told her your mother was dead, when you let Aaron plan her wedding without mentioning she had a living mother-in-law. My relationship with my mother is complicated. Complicated? I laughed, sharp and bitter. You erased her. You declared her dead and moved on. Aaron sat on my sofa, silent, watching this exchange like a spectator at a match where she couldn't pick a side. Logan turned to her, softened his voice. You don't understand. She chose her career over family. She was never there. She's alive, Aaron said quietly. That's what I understand. You told me she was dead, and she's alive. Logan's control was cracking. I could see it in how his hands clenched, in the way he couldn't quite meet either of our eyes. He'd built his life on careful omissions and outright lies, and now the foundation was crumbling. What do you want? He asked me finally. Why bring this up now? I didn't bring it up. You did, when you decided I wasn't worth including in Thanksgiving. That landed. Recognition flickered across his face. The understanding that this wasn't just about Shannon, wasn't just about his lie. This was about respect, about how you treat people you've decided don't matter. They left soon after, no resolution, no apologies, just Logan's tight-lipped anger and Aaron's confused grief. I stood at my window and watched them get into their car below. Logan was gesturing, sharp and aggressive. Aaron sat motionless, staring straight ahead. The car pulled away, disappearing into December evening traffic. I picked up my phone and scrolled to Shannon's number. My thumb hovered over the call button. I hadn't told her yet, hadn't explained that her son was my son-in-law, that she had a daughter-in-law she'd never met, that Logan had built an entire life while pretending she didn't exist. She deserved to know, but the telling would devastate her all over again. I set the phone down. Tomorrow. I'd tell her tomorrow. 3 days later, snow began falling over Nashville, the first of the season, light and tentative, melting as soon as it touched pavement. I stood at my apartment window in the evening darkness, phone in hand, finally ready to make the call I'd been avoiding. Shannon answered on the second ring. "Lemuel, I was just thinking about you. How was your flight home?" "Uneventful." I closed my eyes, rehearsed the words one more time in my mind. There was no gentle way to do this. "Shannon, there's something I need to tell you about Logan." The cheerfulness in her voice dimmed. "You've heard from him?" In a manner of speaking. I sat at my kitchen table, chose each word carefully. "Logan is married to my daughter, Erin." Silence. Long enough that I checked to see if the call had dropped. "Shannon, your daughter." Her voice came out hollow, distant. I have a daughter-in-law." "For 8 years. They married in 2016. More silence. Then, "And he never told me. Never mentioned he was getting married. He told everyone you died in a car accident 20 years ago. Erin believed she was marrying someone with no living parents." The sound she made wasn't quite a sob, wasn't quite a gasp, something raw and wounded that made me wish I'd found a better way to say it. "Not just estranged," she whispered, "not just avoiding me. He killed me. He actually killed me in his story. I'm sorry. I wish I'd known before posting that photo." "Don't be sorry." Her voice steadied, found some core of steel beneath the pain. "I needed to know, even if it hurts, especially if it hurts." Throughout December, we talked regularly, not every day, but several times a week. These weren't romantic calls, nothing like that. We were two people who'd been betrayed by someone they loved, finding unexpected alliance in shared wounds. Shannon would call in the evenings, processing her grief and anger while I listened. She'd share memories of Logan's childhood, the divorce, trying to understand how her son became someone capable of such complete erasure. I shared my own experiences, the dismissal in my own house, the expensive renovations funded by my money, the casual cruelty of being excluded from Thanksgiving. We compared notes like detectives working the same cold case, looking for patterns, trying to understand how we'd both become invisible to people we'd raised. "He was such a sweet boy," Shannon said one night. "Before the divorce, before everything fell apart, he'd bring me drawings from school, save me the last cookie. Where did that child go?" "Maybe he's still there," I offered, "buried under layers of resentment and lies. Or maybe that's just what I want to believe." As January arrived, cold and merciless, Shannon mentioned wanting closure, not reconciliation. She'd moved past hoping for that. But confrontation, acknowledgement, the chance to look her son in the eye and ask him why. "Come to Nashville in February," I suggested. "Face him, get your answers." "I don't know if I can. What if he refuses to see me?" "Then he refuses, but you'll have tried. You'll know you didn't give up." She promised to think about it. Meanwhile, I'd been thinking about my own situation, the house, the trust fund, 5 years of sending $2,800 every month while Logan and Erin spent it on renovations and furniture and expensive dinners. I needed to understand my legal position before making any moves. In mid-January, I scheduled a consultation with Ethan Mason, a real estate attorney whose card I'd kept from years ago. His office occupied the 14th floor of a downtown building, all polished wood and leather chairs. Professional efficiency without unnecessary warmth. Mason was younger than me by a decade, with silver threading through his dark hair and reading glasses he kept adjusting. I explained the situation carefully, laid out the documents I'd brought. The property deed, still in my name. The trust agreement, 5 years of bank statements showing the monthly transfers. He reviewed everything methodically, making notes on a yellow legal pad. When he looked up, his expression was neutral, but his verdict was clear. "The property is legally yours, Mr. Boyd. The trust is revocable at your discretion." "What if I wanted to terminate it?" "That's your right. You'd need to provide written notice, but it's absolutely your right." He calculated numbers on his pad. Over 5 years, you've contributed $168,000 to maintain a property you don't live in. That's generous. It's foolish, I corrected. I called it generosity. They called it obligation. Mason removed his glasses, met my eyes directly. What would you like to do about that? I didn't answer immediately. The question hung in the air between us, heavy with implications. What did I want? Justice? Revenge? Simply to stop being taken advantage of? I need time to think, I said finally. Take all the time you need, but understand your position is strong. Legally speaking, you have considerable leverage. I walked out of Mason's office into cold January air, hands deep in my coat pockets. Downtown Nashville rushed past, cars and pedestrians and the constant hum of a city that didn't care about individual grievances. The financial numbers kept circling in my mind. $168,000, 5 years. A house I couldn't live in, funding a life that had no room for me. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with Mason's business card and a yellow legal pad. Started making lists, drawing diagrams, connecting dots. 3 columns. What I know, what I can do, what they don't know. Under what I know, Logan lied about Shannon. House is legally mine. Trust is revocable. They've spent $168,000 of my money. Under what I can do, terminate trust, sell property, bring Shannon to Nashville. Under what they don't know, everything. I tapped my pen against the pad, thinking through scenarios, calculating consequences. Then I picked up my phone and texted Shannon, "Book your flight for February. It's time." I sent a second text to Mason. "Let's schedule another meeting. I've made some decisions." Setting down the phone, I looked around my small apartment, the beige walls, the rental furniture, the place I'd retreated to when my family took over my house. Not for much longer, the pieces were moving into position. I just needed to decide which ones to sacrifice and which ones to protect, and who would be left standing when the board finally cleared. Shannon's flight arrived on a gray February afternoon, the kind where Nashville's sky pressed down heavy and colorless. I waited at baggage claim, watching passengers stream past with their rolling suitcases and exhausted faces. When Shannon emerged, she looked smaller than I remembered, diminished by nerves or the flight or the weight of what we were about to do. The drive from the airport to her hotel was quiet. She looked out the window at unfamiliar streets, buildings she'd never seen, a city where her son had built an entire life without her. I knew these roads intimately, knew where Logan worked, where he shopped, where he ate, especially where he ate. "Thank you for this," Shannon said as we pulled up to the Marriott downtown, "for bringing me here, for not letting me chicken out." "You're braver than you think," I told her. "Get settled. I'll pick you up at 6 for dinner." I'd chosen the Riverside Grill carefully, upscale but not pretentious, always busy on Friday evenings. Logan and Aaron went there every Friday, their date night ritual, something Aaron had mentioned months ago before everything unraveled. I'd driven past last Friday just to confirm. They'd been there, window table, Logan gesturing animatedly about something. Shannon was nervous when I picked her up, talking quickly about her room, the view, how different Nashville was from San Diego. I let her fill the silence. We were seated at a table with a clear view of the entrance. The waiter brought menus. Shannon opened hers, closed it, opened it again without reading. "This is a nice place," she said. "Do you come here often?" "First time." I checked my watch, 7:05. They usually arrived around 7. "I don't know if I can eat. My stomach feels like it's full of rocks." "Try anyway. We might be here a while." At 7:15, the door opened and Logan walked in with Aaron beside him. He was animated, talking about something with his hands, probably a recent sale, the way his gestures suggested numbers and square footage. Aaron looked tired, like she'd been crying recently. They were shown to their usual table across the dining room, ordered drinks, settled in. I waited until their waiter left. Then I leaned forward, kept my voice low. "Don't look now, but your son just walked in." Shannon's fork clattered against her plate. "Where? Which one?" "Dark hair, blue shirt. The woman with him is Aaron." She turned too quickly, saw them. Her hand gripped the table edge so hard her knuckles went white. "That's him? He looks so different, older." 15 years will do that." "I can't do this. I thought I could, but I can't." I touched her shoulder gently. "You can. Come with me." We stood together, walked across the restaurant, weaving between tables. Other diners glanced up, went back to their meals. Logan was mid-sentence when he saw us approaching. His face went through a sequence of expressions: confusion, recognition, horror, each one more pronounced than the last. The color drained from his skin. Actually drained, like someone had pulled a plug. Aaron noticed his reaction, turned to see what he was staring at. "Hello, Logan." Shannon's voice was steady despite her trembling hands. "It's been a long time." Logan couldn't speak. His mouth opened, but nothing emerged. Shannon turned to Aaron, managed a smile. "You must be Aaron. I'm Shannon, Shannon Morales, Logan's mother." The emphasis on mother landed like a physical blow. Aaron's eyes went wide, flicking between Shannon and Logan, who still hadn't found his voice. "His mother?" Aaron's voice was barely a whisper. "But Logan said you died. He said car accident." Logan finally moved, standing so abruptly his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Other diners were starting to notice. He couldn't make a scene here. Too many witnesses, too public, too much exposure. Through gritted teeth, "This isn't the time or place for this." Shannon's smile turned cold. "When would be a good time? You haven't returned my calls in 15 years. You told everyone I was dead." "We don't need to do this here." Logan's voice was harsh but quiet, controlled by sheer force of will. "Actually," I interjected, "we can discuss this later if you prefer. Shannon's staying at the Marriott downtown, room 412, if you want to talk like adults." Logan's eyes snapped to me. "You planned this? You orchestrated this whole thing?" "I took an old friend to dinner," I said mildly. "Not my fault you chose the same restaurant." He knew that was a lie, knew I'd engineered this encounter precisely, but he couldn't prove it, couldn't do anything about it without causing the scene he was desperately trying to avoid. "Enjoy your meal," Shannon said, touching Aaron's shoulder briefly. "I hope we can talk soon, really talk." We walked back to our table. I could feel Logan's eyes burning into my back. Shannon sat down heavily, like her legs wouldn't hold her anymore. Her hands shook as she reached for her water glass. "I can't believe I just did that," she whispered. "You did well." Across the room, Logan and Aaron sat in frozen silence. Their waiter approached, retreated when he saw their faces. Aaron was talking now, leaning forward, gesturing. Logan's head was in his hands. Other diners had stopped pretending not to watch. We finished our meal slowly. Shannon picked at her food, barely eating. I watched Logan and Aaron's table in my peripheral vision. The tension there was palpable even from this distance. Aaron's voice rose once, loud enough to carry. "How could you lie about something like that?" before she caught herself and lowered it again. When we finally left, Shannon was shaking, adrenaline wearing off, reality hitting her. We walked to my car in silence. I opened her door, but before getting in, she turned to look back at the restaurant. Through the window, we could see Logan and Aaron still sitting there. Aaron was talking, gesturing. Logan hadn't moved, his head still in his hands. "He looked right through me," Shannon said quietly, like I was a stranger. I didn't respond, just got in the car and started the engine. As we pulled away, I glanced back one more time. Logan had lifted his head, was watching us leave. Even from this distance, I could see the fury in his posture. The cracks were forming. Now I just needed to apply more pressure. Ethan Mason's office felt smaller in early March. Or maybe it was just the weight of the paperwork spread across his desk. Trust termination documents, property records, notification letters drafted in precise legal language that left no room for misinterpretation. "Once you sign these," Mason said, sliding the first document toward me, "the notification will be sent. After May 1st, you have no obligation to maintain that trust." "How much notice are they getting?" 60 days, more than legally required, actually. He pointed to a clause in the termination letter. Tennessee law only requires 30 days for trust modifications, but I'd recommend the extra time. Shows good faith if there's ever a dispute. I signed where he indicated. My hand was steady, decisive. I'd been thinking about this since January, weighing options, considering consequences. But the restaurant encounter 3 weeks ago had crystallized everything. Logan deserved no more of my money, my generosity, my silent support. "The letter will go out certified mail this afternoon," Mason said, collecting the signed documents. "They'll have to sign for it. Proof of delivery." Good. 2 days later, I imagined the scene I couldn't witness. The mail carrier arriving. Logan or Aaron signing the green certified mail slip. the envelope being torn open, the confusion giving way to realization as they read, "Dear Ms. Boyd and Mr. Morales, this letter serves as formal notification that the trust established by Lemuel James Boyd for property maintenance at address will terminate effective May 1st, 2025. No further payments will be made after this date. You may continue residing at the property, but all maintenance, tax, insurance, and utility expenses are now your responsibility. Signed, Ethan Mason, Attorney at Law." Not signed by me. This was business, not family. That evening, my phone rang. Erin's name on the screen. I let it ring twice before answering. "Dad?" She'd been crying. Her voice was thick, wet, breaking on the single syllable. "Please, we just got a letter from some lawyer about the trust ending. Tell me it's a mistake." "It's not a mistake. We can't afford this. The house expenses, property taxes alone, are over $4,000 a year. Insurance, utilities. We were counting on—" "You're both adults with incomes," I interrupted. "It's time you took responsibility for your own lives. But we've done so much to the house. The renovations, the improvements. Renovations you did with my money, in my house." Silence. Then, "It's still about the restaurant, isn't it? About Shannon. Logan's dealing with a lot right now, Dad. He doesn't need this added stress. Neither did I when he excluded me from Thanksgiving. Neither did Shannon when he told everyone she was dead." I kept my voice flat, emotionless. "You can downsize if you need to. Plenty of apartments in Nashville are more affordable. This is our home. It's my house. It always has been." She hung up without saying another word. In late March, Logan tried to solve the problem himself. I learned about it later from Mason, who had contacts at most Nashville banks. Logan had walked into First Tennessee Bank, confident and aggressive, requesting a home equity line of credit. The house was worth nearly $500,000, plenty of equity to tap. He probably had his pitch prepared, his documents organized, his charm ready to deploy. The loan officer ran the title search, standard procedure. That's when Logan's plan collapsed. "Mr. Morales," the officer said, "I'm sorry, but we can't approve a loan secured by property you don't own. I live there, my wife's family owns it, we've been there 5 years. That doesn't change the title. The owner of record is Lemuel James Boyd." Logan left the bank furious and humiliated. I could picture it, his aggressive stride across the parking lot, fists clenched, that arrogance finally cracking under the weight of reality. April brought the financial strain into sharp focus. Property taxes, insurance premiums, utility bills that had always been paid by the trust, maintenance costs. When everything was tallied, the monthly burden approached $3,200. Logan's real estate commissions had been down since February. He was distracted, unfocused, bringing his personal drama to client meetings. Erin picked up extra shifts at the upscale boutique where she worked part-time, but retail wages barely made a dent. They started fighting about money, about Shannon, about the lies Logan had told, and the lies he was probably still telling. Each argument chipped away at the foundation of their marriage. By late April, they were barely speaking civilly. Erin had met with Shannon twice for coffee, against Logan's explicit orders. Shannon was careful in these meetings, never bad-mouthing Logan directly, but answering questions honestly about the past, about the divorce, about why they'd lost contact, about the sweet boy Logan had been before everything went wrong. Erin was beginning to see patterns. Logan's need to control, his willingness to lie when it served him, his ability to rewrite history to suit whatever narrative he needed. She called me briefly one evening, her voice tired but clearer than it had been in months. "I don't know if I can trust him anymore." "That's something you'll have to figure out for yourself," I told her. Shannon showed me pictures, Logan as a little boy. She loved him, Dad. He wasn't abandoned, he chose this. What people tell themselves and what's true are often very different things. I don't know what else he's lied about. Every time I think I've found the bottom of it, there's more. I didn't offer comfort or advice, just listened. Let her work through it on her own. In late April, my phone buzzed with a text from Mason. "They've stopped paying property taxes. First installment was due April 15th. No payment received." I read it sitting in my apartment, watching evening fall over Nashville, lights coming on across the skyline. I thought about the house, my house, and the two people living there who'd believed they could take it for granted forever. My phone buzzed again. Voicemail from Aaron. I didn't listen to it immediately. Instead, I opened my laptop and began researching. Real estate agents who specialized in that neighborhood, comparable home sales in the past 6 months, current market conditions, interest rates. The house was worth more now than when I'd moved out, probably close to $500,000 with all their improvements. I started making notes on a legal pad. List price, $485K. Agent commission, 6%, for $29,100. Closing costs approximately $8,000. Net proceeds, $447,900. Nearly $450,000, plus whatever remained in my savings after 5 years of funding their lifestyle. I could retire comfortably on that, move somewhere warm, start over. But first, I needed to make sure they understood exactly what they'd lost. I picked up my phone and called Mason. "I want to list the property," I said when he answered. "How soon can we move on this?" Dylan Reed spread the comparative market analysis across Mason's conference table, charts and photographs, sales data from the past 6 months, everything organized with the precision of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. "Similar homes in your neighborhood," Reed said, pointing to highlighted entries, "have sold between $475,000 and $510,000. Given the recent renovations, new floors, updated kitchen, the marble countertops, I'd recommend listing at $485,000. Should move quickly in this market." I studied the numbers. The house I'd walked away from 3 years ago, improved with my money, was now worth nearly $500,000. The irony wasn't lost on me. "How long until closing typically?" 60 to 90 days once we have an offer. Properties in that area are desirable right now. Young professionals, growing families. I'd expect multiple showings within the first week. I looked at Mason. He nodded slightly. Everything was legal, documented, unassailable. I turned back to Reed. "Let's do it." Reed pulled out the listing agreement. I signed where he indicated, authorizing the sale that would displace my daughter. The pen moved smoothly across the paper. No hesitation. Throughout May, I heard things through Shannon. She'd become my inadvertent intelligence source. Aaron confided in her, seeking maternal guidance she'd never had. Logan's business was suffering. He'd lost a major commercial listing, a property he'd been courting for months. Showed up to the presentation unprepared, distracted, kept checking his phone. The client chose another agent. The commission would have been $18,000. "Aaron said he came home at 2 in the afternoon, Shannon told me during one of our phone calls. Sat in the garage for over an hour. Wouldn't talk about what happened. The cracks were becoming chasms. Late May, Shannon met Aaron for coffee at their usual place downtown. They'd fallen into a comfortable rhythm, twice a week, casual conversation. The relationship Aaron should have had with a mother-in-law all along. Shannon mentioned something that seemed innocuous to her, but landed like a bomb for Aaron. Logan was always bad with money. Even as a teenager, his father and I argued about it constantly. Aaron went still, coffee cup halfway to her lips. Shannon continued, not noticing the impact. "I heard from his father a few years ago. We still talk occasionally about Logan, hoping he'll come around. That Logan had gotten in over his head with credit cards. Has he gotten better about that?" That evening, Shannon called me. I think I said something wrong. Aaron got very quiet, made an excuse, and left early. I could imagine what Aaron had done next. Gone home. Checked their joint accounts. Found nothing unusual because Logan was too smart for that. Then checked his personal credit card statement, the one she'd never looked at because she'd trusted him when he said he had no debt. The first week of June, the certified letter arrived at their door. Notice of intent to sell property. Mason had drafted it carefully, every word chosen for maximum legal protection. Lemuel James Boyd, as sole owner of the property at address, intends to list the home for sale with an expected closing within 60 and 90 days. Current residents must vacate within 60 days of sale closing. Shannon told me Logan read it 3 times, each reading making his face redder. He called an attorney immediately. Not Mason, someone he found through aggressive internet advertising, promising to fight for your rights. But after reviewing the documents, the attorney's verdict was the same as Mason's had been for me. Logan had no legal standing, no ownership, no lease agreement, no tenant protections. The verbal arrangement and trust fund didn't create rights. "Can I sue for emotional distress?" Logan demanded, according to what the attorney later told a colleague who mentioned it to Mason. Elder abuse? Something? The attorney warned him that frivolous litigation could result in penalties. Logan left without retaining him. Mid-June, Dylan Reed called. "We're ready to go live. Photographers coming tomorrow morning." "How early?" 9 a.m. Should take about 2 hours. I didn't warn Aaron. By the afternoon, the listing was active on every major real estate platform. Professional photos showed the house at its best. Sunlight streaming through those expensive windows. The renovated kitchen gleaming. The hardwood floors I'd never walked on polished to perfection. The "for sale" sign went up at 4 p.m. Dylan Reed's smiling face on it. Premier Nashville Realty logo beneath. List price clearly visible. $485,000. Neighbors noticed within minutes. I imagine the texts, the whispered conversations over fences, the questions Aaron would have to answer. That night, according to Shannon, they had their worst fight yet. Aaron had discovered $47,000 in credit card debt on Logan's personal account. Logan had lost his major client. And now there was a "for sale" sign in their yard, announcing their displacement to the entire neighborhood. "Where did the money go?" Aaron had demanded. "It's under control. I'm managing it." "Like you managed everything else? The lies about your mother, losing that listing, managing us into losing our home?" "It's not our home. It never was. Your father made sure of that." But later, Shannon said, Aaron had said something quietly that stopped him cold. "We did this to ourselves. We treated my father like he was nothing, and now we have nothing." Logan had no response to that. At 2 a.m, fueled by rage and desperation, he went outside and yanked the "for sale" sign out of the ground, stood there holding it, the metal post dripping dirt, before realizing how pointless the gesture was. He replanted it at dawn. Reed would just replace it anyway. Late June brought the first showing. A young couple, first-time buyers, excited about everything. Dylan Reed led them through while Logan and Aaron were required to leave, standard procedure for showings. They sat in Logan's car parked down the street, watching strangers tour rooms they had believed were theirs. My phone buzzed. I pulled it out, looked at the photo I'd taken that morning. My new apartment building, modern and clean, balcony visible on the 8th floor. I typed a message to Aaron. "Closing on this next month. 2 bedrooms, balcony, finally have space again." I hesitated for just a moment before sending it. Was this cruelty? Or just honest communication with my daughter? I sent it. Through connections at the real estate office, I heard about the showing later. The young couple had loved the house. The woman was pregnant, about 5 months along, Reed guessed. They'd stood in the second bedroom talking about painting it yellow for the nursery, gender neutral, full of hope and plans. New life beginning as theirs fell apart. The circle completing itself in ways I'd never quite intended, but couldn't bring myself to regret. The apartment purchase agreement sat before me in mid-July, waiting for my signature. 8th floor of a modern building downtown, 2 bedrooms, balcony with city views. The price was $245,000, less than half what my house had sold for. The young couple had offered $482,000, and I'd accepted without hesitation. "This is a good investment," the attorney said. Not Mason this time, someone who specialized in residential purchases. "The building's only 3 years old. Excellent management company." I signed, my hand steady, decisive. The weight I'd carried for 5 years, the burden of funding a life that had no room for me, lifted with each stroke of the pen. Late July, Shannon called from Nashville. She'd been visiting more frequently, staying a week at a time now, helping Aaron pack. "Logan doesn't want me here," she said. "But Aaron asked, and he can't really stop her anymore." "How is she?" "Overwhelmed. They found a rental apartment, 2 bedrooms, one's $850 a month, much smaller than what they're leaving." Shannon's voice softened. "They're selling furniture to cover the moving costs and deposits. The truck they rented is half the size it should be." I pictured my daughter wrapping dishes, boxing books, dismantling the life she'd thought was permanent. Felt something that might have been sympathy, but was mainly just acknowledgement. This was the natural consequence of the choices she'd made. "Will you be there on moving day?" I asked. "If Aaron wants me, yes." She was. Shannon helped pack while Logan stalked through the empty rooms, bitter and angry, blaming me, blaming Shannon, blaming everyone but himself. The moving truck left in early afternoon, heading across town to an address I'd never see. Early August, Shannon called again. Erin left him, moved in with a friend from work. She told Logan she needs space. Divorce? Not yet, but probably. Shannon paused. She said it was the debt, finding out about the $47,000, realizing he'd lied to her the same way he lied about me, and his attitude through everything. The way he blamed everyone else, never took responsibility. How's he taking it? Alternating between pleading and threatening, from what Erin says. But she's done. She told me she's been talking with me regularly and learning what a healthy relationship looks like. That hurt to hear. Knowing my son showed her the opposite. We sat with that silence for a moment, the strange alliance we'd built over wreckage and shared pain. Mid-August, my phone rang. Erin's name on the screen. I answered, said nothing, waited. Dad. Her voice was thick with tears. I need to say something, and I need you to let me finish. I'm listening. The words poured out. Years of taking me for granted, letting Logan dismiss me, not defending me when it mattered. The Thanksgivings and Christmases where she'd chosen him over me, chosen convenience over respect. I should have stopped him, she said. At Thanksgiving, when he told you about Atlanta. All those times he made you feel like you didn't matter. I'm so sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I let her finish, heard her cry through the phone, heard the genuine remorse in her voice. When she went quiet, I responded carefully. I appreciate that, but apologies are just words, Erin. I know they are, but I mean them. You and Logan made a choice. I kept my voice firm, but not cruel. You decided I wasn't worth your time, your respect, your consideration on holidays. You made me feel invisible in my own family, invisible in my own house. I know. Actions have consequences. Every decision costs something. Now you understand that. A long pause, then barely a whisper. You're right. I know. We didn't reconcile, not fully. The damage was too deep for quick repair. But something shifted in that conversation. A possibility opened. Not forgiveness, not yet. But understanding. A foundation that might someday rebuild into something resembling a relationship. I'm proud you left him, I said finally. That took strength. I learned it from you, she said softly. Watching you this year, the way you stood up for yourself. I never saw you do that before. After we hung up, I stood at my new balcony railing, looking out at Nashville's skyline. August heat made the air shimmer, but the view from 8 stories up captured the whole city. My city. The place I'd lived for 40 years, raised a daughter, built a business, lost myself, and found myself again. Late August, Shannon visited again. She brought wine. I'd made dinner, pasta, simple but good. We sat on the balcony as evening fell, comfortable in the silence we'd earned. Do you think they'll figure it out? Shannon asked eventually. Erin and Logan? Erin might. She's starting to see clearly, asking the right questions. I sipped my wine. Logan, some people never learn. They just move from one situation to the next, always the victim, never understanding their own role. It's strange, Shannon said. I have a better relationship with his ex-wife than I ever had with him as an adult. Erin's not his ex-wife yet. Give it time. She smiled sadly. But you're right, it is strange. I have a daughter-in-law who actually wants to know me, and I have a son who wishes I was dead. You have more than that now. I gestured at the space between us, the wine glasses, the comfortable evening. You have a friend who understands what it costs to matter. She touched my arm gently. Acknowledgement without words. The sun finished setting. Nashville's lights created a canvas of gold and white below us. Thousands of lives being lived in buildings I could see from here. Somewhere out there, Logan was in his small rental apartment, alone, still blaming everyone but himself. Somewhere else, Erin was with her friend, trying to rebuild, learning hard lessons about choice and consequence. And here I sat, in my space, with furniture I'd chosen, walls I'd painted, a life entirely my own. Shannon refilled our wine glasses. The evening air cooled slightly, bringing relief from the day's heat. I looked around my balcony, smaller than the deck at the house had been, but mine. Every plant I'd chosen, every chair I'd positioned, every view I'd earned through patience and planning, and refusing to accept invisibility. For the first time in 5 years, I wasn't living in the shadow of what I'd lost. I'd built something new, something better, something that couldn't be taken because I'd claimed it for myself. Shannon said nothing, just sat beside me in understanding. We both knew what it had cost to get here, the pain, the confrontations, the relationships severed or damaged. We'd both lost children in different ways, but we'd gained something more valuable. Proof that we mattered, that our lives were worth fighting for, that consequences applied to everyone. The story didn't end with triumph, just quiet satisfaction. Justice served, lessons learned, life reclaimed. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.